All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Is there any declarations of conflict of interest?
None for me.
Okay. Can I have approval of the agenda, Bob?
Sure.
Okay, and I'll second it. Approval of the minutes from August 26th, 2024.
Yep.
Moved, seconded. Okay. Any business arising from the minutes?
No, none for me.
Okay. We'll move on to reports. The Climate Action Plan. Excuse me. What we heard report. So, Kristen? I thought it was.
Good morning,
Katrina.
Mr. Chair.
I read that. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Kristen.
I'm here to speak to the What We Heard report, Phase 2. The purpose of this report is to update Council on the public engagement conducted during Phase 2, the development phase of the Climate Action Plan, as outlined in the What We Heard report. The What We Heard report, Phase 2, captures public feedback collected through community-based organizations, a public event, and an online survey. This engagement occurred from April to June 2024. The city partnered with 6 community-based organizations known as engagement collaborators. These groups were selected for their established connections with traditionally marginalized and underrepresented communities. Supported by city staff, these organizations hosted events within their networks to gather feedback on what climate impacts are affecting their communities and to explore potential solutions. Each organization then submitted a report summarizing the feedback they received, which was then synthesized into the final What We Heard report, Phase 2. Additionally, city staff held a public engagement event on June 25th to gather further input from community members. For those unable to attend, an online survey was made available. The activities led by the engagement collaborators, along with the city-led event and survey, revealed common themes for improving climate resilience and community well-being in Charlottetown. These themes included the need for improved public transportation, expanded and preserved green spaces, increased food security, education that incorporates cultural awareness and Indigenous perspectives, ongoing municipal transparency, and continuous public consultation. The insights gathered from this engagement process were integrated into the themes and actions being developed for the draft Climate Action Plan. Once the draft Climate Action Plan is completed, further internal and community engagement will be conducted to further validate and refine the plan.
Okay. Councillor Dryden, any questions on the report?
No, I read it. It's good. Thank you.
And His Worship has joined us.
Yes, I see we started the meeting without quorum.
No, you don't count as quorum.
Yes, I do.
We had quorum.
No,
Go
we
ahead.
do.
Go ahead, you don't. You
No,
vote,
check,
you don't count as
check,
quorum.
check the procedural bylaw.
Okay, I did. Anyway, go ahead.
2 does make quorum, 3 does.
Okay.
On climate action, the Climate Action Plan, I know that it's part of our 4 pillars for the strategic plan. And I did receive something from a resident that lives just in the downtown. Will there be other open sessions, or is this, I'm just trying to get a feel of what we're doing going forward, and then when will it be part of a plan of action for the city as a whole?
Thank you for your question. Through you, Mr. Chair. After the draft is complete, there will be another round of public engagement conducted. That's set to take place likely in early November. In terms of the timelines for the entire Climate Action Plan, I defer that to my colleague, Katrina. She's the lead on this.
Can I ask Katrina?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so as Kristen said, we'll be doing some more public engagement, kind of end of October into November. We'll then take that feedback as well as some more work that we'll be doing over the next couple of months around implementation planning. So, taking the draft actions that we have and looking at timelines, approximate costs, indicators, that kind of thing. And then hopefully taking all of that with that final round of public feedback, integrating all of that through December, potentially into January, and then early next year, presenting council with a draft that hopefully will be adopted.
So spring of 2025.
Well, hopefully sooner than that, like January, February, ideally.
Thank you, Katrina.
Okay. Good. Okay. And I just have a couple of questions too, if I could, just reading through it. I know there's still I know it's still in draft form. A couple of things, and I do agree with the green spaces. I think we've had some conversations in the past. I'm not sure if they went anywhere, but we usually require 10% of land in lieu whenever a new subdivision is being developed, and I would have liked, and I still would like to see that go to at least 20%. And so it's been talked about a couple of times at Parks and Rec, but I don't think yours have been anything concrete moving that way. But I definitely think we should, whether the city pays for the other 10% or whatever, but I think the parks, I agree with this, it's got to be a lot bigger, especially with the density that we're growing nowadays. There's also here, it said frequent mentions were made of the need to improve stormwater management. And I'm wondering, what does that have to do with climate change, stormwater management?
Well, so, I mean, as we all know, around the city, we anecdotally see flooding whenever there's major rainfall events. And we know through climate projections that rainfall is predicted to increase in intensity, getting more rain in a given rainfall. And so by improving the stormwater infrastructure, we are more prepared to handle those storms and not see the flooding that we're currently seeing.
Okay. And I think we've been doing that. I think that's what you'll see down by Park Street. It used to really flood out, but that was all redeveloped. And
Yeah. And
so
we've
it's
been
more
taking
of
some-
that is what you're saying.
Exactly, and more strategically and preemptively as opposed to, because certainly we know certain areas currently that already flood, but there's likely other areas that, based on future predictions, will flood in the future and will have stormwater infrastructure that can't handle what we anticipate we'll be seeing in the future. So things like the project currently being undertaken by Public Works around all of the modeling of the stormwater system will be really helpful in informing all of that work.
And it's good to see it here. I would hope that Public Works is been on that already, seeing the climate change, seeing the amount of floods that we're having. But it's always good to have it on the report. And I had another question I can just find here where yeah, recommendations highlight the need for equitable access to resources and improved decision-making transparency. And that's what do they mean? Excuse me. Improved decision-making transparency. What are they looking for there? Because I think we're pretty transparent as it is.
I think that, Kristen, I don't know, feel free to jump in if there's any specifics in the report. I think some of it is around how we do engagement, I believe. I think we've made a lot of efforts through this planning process to really engage and have the public be involved at every step of the way and see how the decisions are being made. I know that staff make really great efforts, but we've tried to do this in an effort to improve on what's been done in the past. And so I think people would like to see more of that, to be more involved in those decisions that are being made, and just really to make sure that every step of the way the city is keeping the public informed, but also have it be a two-way conversation. Kristen, is there anything you want to add?
I think Katrina summed up well the points presented within the report. In the actual body of the report received from the engagement collaborator, they essentially just underlined that they're looking for continued and improved accountability and transparency. So what we're doing now with the process that Katrina just outlined, but continuing that into the future, and then, of course, improving on it where we can.
Okay. Because I did, excuse me. I do find that there's been a lot of engagement in this particular process, which was great. And for me, as elected official, you look at all our processes, everything's online, all our decisions are made in public. So I was kind of wondering where we were going with that, but it's more the consultation, they like more feedback, and then that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's how we arrive at that decision. There might be a certain amount of dialogue that happens online, but sometimes it's kind of the end stages, right? There's been a lot of internal conversation and sometimes external conversation too leading to that point, and sometimes less so. But as Kristen says, a lot of it's about continuing to be transparent.
Okay. And did I have any other? Nope.
I have a question when you're finished.
Councillor Duran, you okay?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, and yours, did you have
Yeah,
another
so
question?
just in page 22 of your digital copy.
Page?
Charlotte-
Page?
22.
Okay, yeah.
Charlottetown Sustainability's Citizens Group. Was that a committee or advisory group that was established through the department? I know you referred to established by Agora Inc., and Agora Inc. is, if I Google it, it's easily integrated and customized real-time communication. Is that the same group? No? Okay. So could you just give me a little background on it?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. So we were approached by Agora Inc., which is a local business, I believe he works in kind of environmental consulting, but take that with a grain of salt. But he was interested in kind of, under his umbrella, starting up this nonprofit citizens advocacy group around climate action. So through conversations, what he was interested in doing was essentially like a city advisory board. And so we decided to, on a one-time trial basis, provide some funding to that group in light of the work we were doing around the climate action plan. That model, where it's kind of like an advisory board to the city, but it's a bit more arm's length, is one that's been tried in other locations. So we were curious what it would look like here, kind of having somewhat of an advisory board that's informing what we do, but not embedded so strongly in our structures. And so that's kind of how it came to be.
So they do have a Facebook page, and at Angora Inc., our mission, empowering citizens to drive sustainable change. So is that group made up of, it says 20 participants in your backgrounder? Were they selected Charlottetown-wide or island-wide?
I believe Charlottetown-wide, but I'm not 100% sure. There may have been a few that had particular expertise relevant to Charlottetown that do live outside, but all engaged, working, living, regularly interacting in the Charlottetown community. Some have expertise in certain areas of the environmental and sustainability world, and some are just passionate citizens that want to have conversations about this and engage with the community.
It's a conversation, Mr. Chair, that we may want to follow up, is that we do look at an advisory committee on sustainability for going forward. So that's why it came out pretty strong on me when we were looking at bringing in residents, citizens to get their feedback. It's important that we, as an elected body, we have an understanding what's going on too.
Yeah, certainly. So it was meant to be kind of like community-led community engagement, where they have a different.
So the second question is, if we're looking at increasing that 10% of parkland to 15, 20%, I think we should look at other municipalities, do that scan of what's out there, because it's good to stay in the same field or in the same level as other municipalities when it comes to giving up land.
Yeah, I just think, Your Worship, that the density is increasing so much, and we know it's going to continue and increase from our new official plan. The parks just aren't big enough.
No.
Now, like Centennial Park is a good-sized, beautiful park. And to me, that's what a lot of them should be, as opposed to these small little blocks where you can't really do much. Anyway, that's why I think it was great that it was brought out. I think that we should move towards it, and if others don't have it that big, then we can be the leaders. But I think that's the future. You have to have places for kids to go and roam and play ball, play frisbee, and so on. So, okay, very, very well done. Thank you. Move on to Hollister and the sole source request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report is just a quick request for a sole source to do some work with the Atlantic Canada Conservation Data Centre. The work that we are looking to award is some condition assessments for natural areas in the city that the municipality owns. Is a goal that was identified in the Natural Asset Management Roadmap that was presented to this committee a few months back. And what we're looking for from these assessments are an inventory of what species are on the ground, especially species of concern, species of risk, species that might be culturally important, classification of what the current conditions are, the trajectories of what would happen if we left it without management, how the natural area would progress, where the invasive species are and what concentrations, and then some summaries of what the human influences are, like is there dumping, is there overuse of trails, things like that, and then some high-level recommendations. And through that, it would help us with prioritizing management of these areas. It would help us with grant applications, knowing where especially species at risk or concern are. It's a lot of funding applications really want to see that, or it'd really help with certain ones, give us access to that. And then, yeah, it would help us towards that natural asset management piece as well, having a condition scores where we can present that in our inventory and future reporting. So we did provide a quote for 3 areas. We want to start with a trial of some of the smaller properties the city owns, especially Southview Park, the natural area that continues from that property to the Melpex Station property. And then across the road, we own a property that has a couple of retention ponds and some natural areas behind Princess Auto and in between the arterial highway. So we sent the quote for this work to the ACCDC. They gave us a quote for $6,855 to complete this work and prepare a report with this information. We had also reviewed a report they did for the city of Fredericton, which had a lot of what we were looking for, and what wasn't there, we think they'll be able to work into the report they prepare for us. And some of the reasons why we're looking to sole source is the ACCDC is a nonprofit organization. They're a registered charity. They have staff with various expertise in botany and all of these other experience we're looking for this type of work. They also have a large inventory of sightings for all species. They would go out and do field work, so we would get access to that database going back from whenever it would have started recordings. So as a member, we would get access to that. With the membership, which is, I think, $2,500, it would also give us access to basically half rates for the daily field work. So for a nominal fee, we're getting half price work at a daily rate from them. And then all this data that would be collected would then go feed into those inventories and be accessible to other organizations. So it's kind of a data sharing so that it would benefit other groups as well. So those are kind of the main reasons we're looking to sole source with them. And assuming we were happy with the report that was prepared this year, we would then, in the next kind of fiscal years, continue to assess other properties, such as like the Acadian Forest. There's other properties down by the French school that has kind of, we don't really know what the natural condition is there. And then ideally we'd have all of these surveyed, classified in a similar way, so we could then compare them, and then the urban forestry team and our invasive species efforts could all be more effective and making sure it's making the most impact where it's needed the most, and making sure our natural areas that are in good condition stay that way.
So, Alistair, so I see you listed the 5 reasons why we should sole source. And I assume this ACCDC has experience at doing this, you guys are aware of?
Yep, so they have regional staff across the Atlantic Canada. They were formed by government to kind of fulfill this role, and now there are an independent NGO. But they do have staff that I think, at least one staff that's based on PEI. Their office is in Sackville, New Brunswick, to be central to Atlantic Canada. And I know some of us know staff there, so.
So this is what they do?
Yeah, this is what they're experts in. They do all kinds of field surveys, preparing reports for government, for non-government organizations.
So if I would interpret that, then that this is, they can come out with a roadmap of improvements that the city can make to their watersheds.
Yep, so it'd be mainly on the areas of land that we own. That would be the focus, and it would give us a baseline of what's currently there and then some trajectories and recommendations for management.
So, and to me, that's been really important with our watersheds as we see what's happening with a lot of them. So I'm wondering, we have 30,000 budgeted this, and the price of this is only 68, so why wouldn't we add a few more watersheds?
I guess for this, we want to make sure that the report we do get is what we want to get. And once we had a chance to review that, we'll know for future years if it's something we want to continue with them, if there's modifications we'd want to make. So I think we will be happy with the results. We are also getting a bit later into the year at this point, so it might be a bit challenging for them at this point to get all the sites in. So this is just kind of a trial
Okay.
run. And
Okay. Councilor Duran, any questions?
No, I'm fine, Terry, thank you.
Okay, Your Worship?
So, Mr. Chair, just to go over this, 6,800 under finance rules, anything under 25,000 doesn't require 3 bids. Is that right?
Under
What are the-
25, yeah, a request for proposals, yeah.
Yeah, so this is within our parameters of
yeah.
what we're allowed to do.
But this is sole sourcing to this non-for-profit
Yeah,
organization.
anything over that, we have to do an invitational tender or whatever, right? So that's fine with me. Just the areas that you mentioned, the Malpac pumping station, which is a heritage area also, and backs on to, I think, there's a parkland,
Southview Park.
Southview Park, and then if you go east on Malpac Road, Princess Auto, all that water course is protected because that's what SDU, Board of Governors, the St. Dunstan's University Board of Governors, gave to us as the 10% in lieu of cash. So that's very important. And that all flows right down to Hazards Creek, into McNeil's Pond, into Ellen's Creek, and into the Hillsborough Bay. So it's a very important water course. So this data that we get, that we'll be getting, will that be part of the, will you input that into this climate change plan that we're looking at? Or is that, are we staying in the silos? Like, you're getting this real-time information. I think it's all very important to incorporate it into our bigger plan, which is our climate action plan.
Yeah, I guess through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure with the timing, if we'd be able to get it into the climate action plan, but it'll definitely be included as we continue to update our natural asset inventory, as we go towards more natural asset management strategies or plans, whatever that might hold for the future. It may also be something that's with the annual reporting through the climate action plan, if there's like KPIs for invasive species removal, for other natural area management, it's definitely something that could be considered in there. And once we do get them all assessed, there'll be certainly we'll try and keep it as, publicly available and accessible as possible.
Yeah, I see the climate action plan as a living document, so we can keep amending, adding to it, deleting, and so forth. So that's good news. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Moving on, Active Transportation Regional Committee update. Anna,
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
you're very welcome.
This is in response to the notice of motion from Mayor Brown at last month's committee meeting regarding a question regarding the formation of an active transportation regional working group. So to quickly review the timeline, in March 2023, Bike Friendly Communities recommended the creation of such a committee so that the 3 major municipalities in the area could collaborate on active transportation planning. And I think the urban mayors have supported this as well. Of course, my role started in January of this year. We quickly reached out to other municipalities and the province in March of 2024, at which time we were told by the Provincial Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action that they were waiting on my parallel role at the provincial level, a Sustainable Transportation Officer. They were waiting on their hiring. They got very close to the end of that hiring process, and then it needed to be started again. So they're again very close to the end of that process now. And the intention is once that provincial staff member is hired, that they would facilitate the creation of a regional working group, rather than it being led by Charlottetown staff in this year, when our capacity is very much focused on transit collaboration between those municipalities.
I wonder why I want to wait till a net zero transportation coordinator is in place.
Yes, so the Net Zero Transportation Coordinator is, I suppose, the provincial department's name for the equivalent of my role, to be responsible for both public transit and active transportation at the provincial level. And they're going to be hired within the Net Zero office of the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action. And that includes moving, there has been a staff member responsible at the provincial level for public transit within transportation and infrastructure, but that role is sort of moving across into ECA, and the budget provincially is also moving across into that department.
Because if I understood it, the reason you want to put the regional together is when you're applying for applications to continue with the active transportation.
Exactly,
Connect
exactly.
all the communities together.
Yeah.
And this is an
These are,
evolution.
this is a recommending body, obviously.
Oh, yeah, and this is an evolution from the mayor's task force on active transportation that was in the last council from 2018 to 2022.
Okay.
A lot of great ideas came from that. And I think Jessica said we should look more at the regional scope. So that's why the committee, the task force was dissolved, and we're going in this direction because better to have those links between Stratford,
So
Charlottetown, and
by not
Cornwall.
having that formed, is it slowing down any applications? Slowing down any, because I think we had we had some pretty good presentations from Bike Friendly.
Yes.
And a lot of good recommendations from that.
Yes. So in response to that question, Chair, I will say I don't believe that it has slowed down any progress on active transportation this year. All of the main connections between communities have been built, so we do have the path across the Causeway, across the Hillsborough Bridge, and going out to Brackley as well. And in addition, I would say that the official plans of both Cornwall and Stratford are further advanced than Charlottetown's are currently on active transportation. When there's a new subdivision put in, both of those municipalities already have quite good provisions for bike lanes. You can go and visit some of the newer subdivisions in those areas. We have currently out for RFP the city's own 10-year active transportation plan at the moment. Submissions should be received next week. And as part of the creation of that 10-year plan, it includes our consultant engaging very actively with those two neighbouring municipalities and with the province as well. And further, that's a project supported by the Active Transportation Fund that we've applied to previously. And while it hasn't been announced yet, there is a general expectation that that fund will be renewed for a further 5-year period, and we'll probably be hearing about that in the coming months.
Yeah.
And there's certainly an intention and many projects that we could invest in within the city that I'll be responsible for putting those funding applications into.
Okay. And questions?
No, I thank you very much for that update, and that's something I will be bringing up at our mayor's meeting tomorrow for the urban mayor's meeting about the official plans in Stratford and Cornwall have very active policies on ATPs in new developments, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Great.
Yeah. And I will add that there is an event hosted by the Active Transportation Fund Working Group on October 30 that if invitations haven't already been submitted to council, there's going to be a sort of showcase of the successes from that fund over the last 5 years and a tour of, you can attend either in Summerside or Stratford to see their active transportation infrastructure. I'll forward that invitation to council.
So everything's still moving ahead. There's nothing slowing down. So this group will really just approve what they see. And okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Durant, any questions?
No questions for me, thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to fall events update. Kristen and Taylor.
Yes, through you, Chair. I'm going to start off by discussing the first 4 items here, and then with your
Welcome to the
permission.
committee, by the way. Kristen or Taylor? You're Kristen. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Taylor,
Yes.
welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Both of you. Yeah.
Yeah, Kristen, not so much. But, yeah, so I'll discuss the first 4 items here, and then I'll, with your permission, I'll allow Kristen to, not allow. I'll let Kristen speak to the last 4 of them.
Okay.
So the first event I'd like to discuss was our National Tree Day, which was held on September 28th. National Tree Day is typically celebrated September 25th through 28th, and this is the 13th year that it was held in Canada, and it was the biggest year yet. Our own event similarly exceeded expectations. We had some really phenomenal volunteer turnout.
Good.
And just an immensely positive series of interactions with every member of the community that I spoke to. Really heartwarming experience. We planted about 150 trees in, I'd say, about half the time we were expecting to. And they look great. We're going to be doing some light maintenance on that area over the coming weeks as we have time, and hopefully everything will still be looking hardy and hale in the spring. The next one we have coming up, a similar type of event this Saturday. That's with partnered with TD, Friends of the Environment. The previous event was partnered with Tree Canada. I should have credited them there. But TD Friends of the Environment Foundation are partnering with us again to host another event in Windsor Park. We've previously planted about 75 or 100-ish plants there. This weekend we'll be planting another 150. That event will be going from 9 till noon. And so far looking like we're going to have a good turnout for that one as well.
And Windsor Park was picked because there's not much canopy there? I assume.
It was particularly hard hit by Fiona, and there's been a
Windsor Park
lot.
was?
Pardon me?
Windsor Park was?
There was a good stand of trees between the housing along Essex Crescent and the riparian zone that were hit pretty hard. And some pretty old trees were lost in that area. It's also a riparian buffer zone, so we want to improve those areas whenever we have a chance.
Okay, so that's where you're replanting the trees?
Yes,
Yeah, riparian zone.
specifically these ones will be going in that riparian zone, sort of extending it from an existing sort of 10 to 15 meter buffer to closer to that 30-meter buffer, which would be ideal, just in that one corner, and then hopefully expanding in the future.
Okay. Okay.
Let's see. Additionally, we have had quite a bit of conversation with people in that community who have expressed that they'd like to see more trees in that park. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering,
Yeah.
I know it was brought up here before, and I'm just wondering why we can't put a program together where we supply a tree to an individual if they buy one.
Well, to that point, I guess my next point here would be Operation Relief is a little bit similar to that sentiment. That's a program that's still ongoing. I think we might be out of trees now. I think we've got our last of the applications in. But that program sees about 75 large climate-resistant trees planted in people's yards throughout Charlottetown. And that's if residents express an interest in wanting to plant a tree, we do our best to help them select a site on their property that will be amenable to that, and we plant something that from our short list of large climate resilient trees to do that.
And so that's the 75 trees, and they're all spoken for now.
I think we might have maybe in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 left, and even those I think might still be spoken for. But my students' staff are handling those last few applications, so hopefully if we have any left, we'll send out a call for the last few applications on that first come, first served basis.
So all the trees that are piled up at the treatment, the wastewater treatment plant, those are our trees, I assume they're going to be planted somewhere. So are they all identified to be planted, Simon?
Yes, so the trees at the wastewater plant include our trees for our annual fall street and park planting, as well as the relief trees and the trees we're using for natural area restoration. So it's multiple projects worth of trees and shrubs up there.
Okay.
Quite the little forest.
Yep, I see that. So can either one of you give me an idea how many trees that the city as a whole would have planted this year, 2024?
I think we're looking at somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 trees in total.
So very similar to last year.
Just a little bit more, yeah.
Okay, because I noticed that was in the previous report, we talked about the climate report that Kristen did, that it was also brought up a few times about planting as many trees as we can and bring the canopy back. So we're probably going as fast as we can on that. The 2,500 to 3,000 trees.
Based on current capacity, which is mostly limited by humans and the resources that we have in terms of trucks and those things, I think we are probably beyond capacity, but we're holding our own.
No, that's really great. 6,000 trees in 2 years is it's awesome. It's good. Okay, you got there's a couple more bullets.
Yes, through you, Chair. Just one more from me. The Better Homes kickoff event was held yesterday. The that was led by our team member Nick Walker, and apparently that went quite well. Good turnout, a lot of positive feedback on the program, and yeah, just generally a great kickoff to this year's Better Homes Neighborhood Energy Program. This one was specifically targeting the Sherwood area, specifically the neighborhood around the golf course, and is meant to connect those homeowners with an introduction to and potential to register for some of those energy programs that they can use to better their own homes.
Yeah, and I think last year this was done in Sherwood also.
Before my time.
So I'd like to see it moved around a little bit. I know we've been asking to the homes in Hillsborough Park. I mean, that subdivision started in the 70s, so it'd be nice if they can get some education on the efficiency PEI too. Go ahead.
So the last one we did was Spring Park Neighborhood. Sherwood was a number of years ago. So what we do is we put a call out to the community and ask people to express interest in nominating their community to take part, because we want.
Spring Park was last year?
Yeah.
Then Sherwood's year before.
500 lot was before that.
Jeez. So how many years have we been doing this?
I'll let Katrina jump in. She seems to know more about it.
This will be the fourth time. There was one pre-COVID that took forever because of COVID.
Okay.
Took multiple years, and then there was one done in part of the 500 lot. Then there was one done in
Yeah,
part
the
of
500
Spring
lot I
Park.
remember, the Spring Park I
Spring Park.
remember,
Yeah,
Sherwood I recall.
and that's all. This will be 4.
Well, that's 3, 500 lot, Spring Park,
So we did
Sherwood.
Sherwood was first in, I think, 2019 into 2020, 2021. And then there was 2 years ago, it was in down 500 lot. And then last year it was in Spring Park. And then this year back to a different part of Sherwood.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still in Sherwood twice in 4 years. So it should be moved around. It has been in Hillsborough Park, hasn't been, I don't think, in West Rodley. But anyway, just something to look at.
Yeah, thank you for that
Okay,
input.
yeah.
We'll consider that. And yeah, like I was saying, part of it is where we get the applications from. So people from the community nominate their communities, and there was a group of people from this neighborhood that wanted to nominate their neighborhood, so.
No, and it's a really good program, and it really does give a lot of knowledge to what's out there, and it gives a lot of, I think it's free LED light bulbs and energy efficiency items that they can use in their house, and then, of course, neighbors can talk to neighbors, and they get educated on it. But anyway, that's my only thing. I just like to see it moved around more in the city. Okay. Rooted in Art.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take it from here.
Yep.
So Rooted in Art is returning for its 5th year. It's the annual celebration of Charlottetown's urban canopy, seen through the eyes of local artists. This year, the project has been expanded in line with the Communities in Bloom conference. So we are doing 6 art installations this year, as opposed to the 4 that were conducted last year. This will be taking place from October 5th to October 20th, with a self-guided tour being posted on the city's website and promoted through our social media pages. Along with Rooted in Art, we are also doing a guided tour event this year. The guided tour event will be taking place on Sunday, October 20th from 1 till 3 p.m. at Victoria Park. This will give participants a chance to interact one-on-one with the artists and hear directly from the artists on their inspirations and about their installations themselves. So that, again, will be promoted on the city's websites through our social media platforms as well.
And I like that it's also in time with the Communities in Bloom.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We're very thrilled about that. It's definitely provides the opportunity to expand the project this year, so it's a fantastic alignment.
Good, good. Any questions?
Questions, Mr. Chair? Always.
Maybe I shouldn't have asked.
I just want to say that I attended the September 25th tree planting out at the Union Road well field with students from LM Montgomery, grade 6 students. I believe, Taylor, there were 75 students or more. Simon, you were there?
I wasn't there. That was a Tree Canada organised event with the Winter River Watershed Group, I believe.
Oh, yes.
And it was a great event for the students because experiential learning is very key to education. So kids loved it. And then I did go out to the Saturday event at Marysville. I was a little late, but the number of international students there at that event was quite impressive. Students from the Grace School, Grace Christian School were there, and they just had a great time doing that with the hands-on involvement. So, look, there's a lot of great stuff. Great things happen in Environment Sustainability Department.
No, but it is a good point,
Yeah,
though.
it's great.
Having the kids involved, because, I mean, it's a great experience for them as they age, and they realize the importance of it, so.
Thank
Good to
you.
hear, good to hear. Okay. Art walk and talk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did just address the Art Walk and Talk as the guided tour event. That is part of Rooted in Art. So if I can, I will move on to Waste Reduction Week, provided there's no further questions on Rooted in Art. Waste Reduction Week is going to be returning from October 21st to the 27th. Waste Reduction Week is an annual national campaign that encourages communities to explore ways to minimize waste. The Environment and Sustainability Department will once again partner with a number of local organizations to hold special events and special promotions throughout the week, with further details being made available on the city's website and social media platforms. As a part of the Waste Reduction Week, a culmination to the week, we will be wrapping up with the return of the Fix-It Fair, which we have done a number of years before. The Fix-It Fair will be held on October 27th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the West Royalty Community Center, again being promoted through our website and social media platforms.
Okay, and I did notice in the Climate Action Plan, they talked about waste recycling, more recycling, which I think was also pretty key to a lot of our waste. I find a lot of the recycling just gets thrown out, and I think that was noted in that Climate Action Plan. Some of the people had brought that up about more recycling, which I think is really important, and that's why even that Fix-It Fair is really good towards recycling. But it's nice to hear, nice to see people are taking notice. It really is. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's I really appreciate events like Waste Week and the Fix-It Fair because it does encourage community members and especially provides education on waste sorting, which is very helpful.
Right on. Right on. Councillor Drawn, any questions or comments? You good?
No, everything's great. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Yeah, Your Worship? She just did.
So thank you, through Mr. Chair. So I just touched on the Fix-It Fair very briefly. So it's going to be held on October 27th at the West Royalty Community Center from 1 to 4 p.m.
I know I attended it last year. There was a good turnout. But this past Sunday, I attended the first PEI Chinese flea market. And their focus was on reducing waste and reuse. And so the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, and in politics, it's reduce, reuse, recycle, re-election. But it was a very good focus, and they were all trying to sell their wares, whether it was cooking, it was clothing. So it's great if we can, it would be great, Kristen, if we could reach out to some of our new Canadian groups. I know the Filipinos are very active, the Vietnamese, Chinese, or Indians from all parts of India. So that would be very important part of this climate action plan, that we include the diversity of our community.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the Provincial Tree Planting Support 2 billion tree program. Simon, which I understand from what I read that the province is looking to cut that program. So Simon, got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in August 2023, Prince Edward Island provincial government reached an agreement with the federal government to establish a provincial PEI 2 billion tree program to permanently expand forest cover in PEI and help recover areas damaged by Hurricane Fiona, specifically citing expanding both urban and rural forests. In 2023 and 2024, Charlottetown received funding from the PEI 2 billion tree program for 42,500 and 75,000 respectively for tree planting. On the 19th of September 2024, the city was informed that the province was renegotiating their 2 billion tree funding agreement with the federal government and had decided to discontinue the municipal funding stream. The rationale that was provided was that municipalities are not identified as a core client group of forest, fish and wildlife, and supporting the urban forests is outside the mandate of that division. The PEI 2 billion tree municipal stream was created to fill a gap that existed, and with the creation of the FCM 2 billion tree fund, called the Growing Canada's Community Canopies Fund, it was perceived the gap no longer existed, and that Forest, Fish and Wildlife was refocusing the funding on their core clients. So as a result, Forest, Fish and Wildlife will no longer have any programs that will be supporting the expansion of urban forests or helping with our restoration following post-Tropical Storm Fiona. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities Growing Canada's Community Canopies, sorry, a bit of a mouthful, fund is a $291 million initiative ending in 2031 that is open to the more than 2,000 municipalities across Canada. It requires an extensive competitive application, and Charlottetown submitted an application in August 2024 for projects outside of what we'd planned to apply for provincial support for. There are some key differences between the PEI program and the FCM program. In particular, obviously the PEI program was only for PEI municipalities, whereas the FCM, we're competing against municipalities across the entire of Canada, where we would obviously be have a lot smaller resources. The program itself is a very big program and allows up to $10 million to be applied for, but it's 50% match. So as you can imagine, again, that kind of favors those large municipalities that have very large budgets in other provinces. The application process is very different. It's a very extensive FCM application process. We've currently gone through 3 review processes, over 50 pages of applications, and very extensive, as well as extensive monitoring and review. So the impact of this loss is quite significant to us, because we were working on the basis that we would be able to apply to both the FCM fund and also the PEI 2 billion tree project to support our ongoing post-Fiona restoration strategy. So the PEI 2 billion tree municipal stream was a low barrier fund that provided a regular source of income, and that loss is going to equate to a loss of trees that we would be able to plant. So we're looking at probably over 3 years, maybe between 2,000 or 3,000 trees less we'll be able to plant as a result of the loss of that particular funding stream. The PEI 2 billion tree project, the PEI 2 billion tree municipal stream project access to the provincial nursery, and therefore funds were used to purchase trees from local nurseries. So that funding will no longer be going to those local nurseries. So our recommendations, essentially, urban forests have been identified as a critically important natural asset in the fight to adapt to climate change, yet municipalities are not identified as core clients of forest, fish and wildlife, and support for the urban forest has been identified as outside their mandate. So we recommend that Council engage with the Minister for Environment, Water and Climate Change to request Forest, Fish and Wildlife Division expand their mandate to include municipalities as an identified group supported by the division, and include urban forest restoration and expansion as a divisional goal.
Okay.
Any questions?
Who's my buddy?
Environment Sustainability, Minister Myers.
And so what are you saying?
Well, meeting with them, see if we can get this back on track.
So if I understand, Simon, so So we've been planting on average 3,000 trees, and this is another program, so we can purchase trees and contractors must plant them for us then. So that's another 3,000 that we could be doing, is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So essentially, we've been planting between 2,000 and 3,000 trees, probably closer to 2 last year and hopefully closer to 3 this year.
That's a city as a whole. not
That's the
just
city as a whole, yes. We rely on various funding sources to be able to fund that. And the last couple of, since Fiona, basically the PEI 2 billion tree program started just as we started our recovery efforts from Fiona. So it's been a significant stream of funding to support our efforts to restore the urban forest following Fiona. With the loss of, as we were informed in end of September that this was cancelled, we'd already made plans to, we'd already applied to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities fund, assuming that, working on the basis that we had no reason to think that the PEI 2 billion tree program was going to change. So we applied for the FCM fund for some projects, and were looking to apply to the PEI 2 billion tree program for other projects within the city, both under the umbrella of expanding the urban forest and restoring after Fiona. Over a number of years, the amount of funding that we would have accumulated from the PEI 2 billion trees would have resulted in probably somewhere between additional 2,000 and 3,000 trees over 3 years. So maybe between 800 and 1,000 trees a year.
Okay, so when I look at the graph, the key differences between FCM and the 2 billion trees, I'm seeing maximum funds available upon request. So with the FCM program, we have to match it by 50% dollars, where the 2 billion we do not.
For the last 2 years, we haven't had to do that. We would have had to do that this coming year. We had been informed earlier that this coming year, before it was cancelled, that we would have to do matching funds next year.
Okay, so under the FCM program, have you had any success?
We haven't heard back yet. We're in a review process. It's a fairly long process, as you can imagine.
50-plus pages, yeah, over 20 documents, yeah.
It's very significant, and the way that they run that program is there's been 3 levels of administrative review, then it goes to a peer review, and then we make adjustments to that, and then we go back and we should finish it at that point.
Wow. So municipality as small as ours under the FCM, we probably get buried in a lot of paperwork.
Well, that certainly is a concern. I can't speak to for sure how it will work out. Certainly, we have no indication of anything other than the fact that we are we have the opportunity to apply just the same as all other municipalities in the FCM.
Well, we certainly got hammered, probably harder than anybody else in the Maritime, so it's definitely worth a conversation to the other level of government for sure. Thanks for bringing this to us. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, did you say, are you looking at trying to meet with them, the minister?
I didn't say that, no.
You may want to, because I'm looking at page 54. So we received from the PEI 2 billion tree program, $42,000 and $75,000 respectively.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a dent that, it's a financial impact that,
I didn't say I wouldn't either.
no,
I just didn't say
we'd
I
have to
did.
absorb. Right, Simon?
Yes, through the chair, we received that funding last year, and we currently have the program going on this year where we can spend up to $75,000. It's been very important to us when we think about how much money we have within our operating budget and capital budget to spend on trees. The loss of $75,000 is a significant amount of money. And I should note that while I think we're doing an exceptional job in the amount of trees that we are planting right now, in order to recover from Fiona within a 10-year time span, we need to be doing significantly more, at least double what we're currently doing. And that's to recover within a 10-year period.
Okay, so having said that, Simon, So I might understand, when you're talking about we need to double what we're doing now, is double to 3,000 per year or 6,000 per year?
That's correct. We need to be looking at, ideally, in order to recover within that 10-year window, we need to be planting about 6,000 trees a year.
Okay, so that's a target we can talk to the government about. Okay, all right, thank you, thank you.
We can arrange that, sir, and you can head down and just bring up a couple of other topics I can give you when you're going down there, but yeah, this is great.
Well, you know, is it operational? Councillor Duran, any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Good?
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, can I jump in very
You
quickly?
can, you can.
So for Alistair's report for Sole Source, I
Yep.
believe we might need a mover and a seconder for
Yeah,
that.
no, for sure, yeah.
Thank
We have a mover, and Councillor Duran, you second that?
Sure.
Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. She's looking after you, Alistair. Any other questions, any other comments? Okay, we'll have a movement to adjourn. Moved, sir. Moved and seconded. Councillor Duran?
Sure, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Thank you.